TNA Wrestling has been around for 24 years. We just came off of Slammiversary this past Sunday. And in those 24 years, there's been a lot of ups and downs, but there's been a lot of magical moments. So on this episode of the Wrestling Delorean Podcast, we're going to be talking about the top 5 TNA moments in the history of the company. And also, since there's been a lot of shit going on in TNA, we're also going to be giving top 5 advice or top 5 things that could help TNA. And it's a very special episode because I'm joined here by OPC, the Don of the Circle Debate. So let's get right into it right now. Welcome to the Wrestling Delorean Podcast.
Snap! That's the delivery, it's the narrow. Yeah. Mike and Henny never miss. Every word hit like a fist. Make it rain from the stage. The Narrow's here. He's the Lord of Gotham. Stand clear. He's live and fresh out of Arkham. Absolutely mad. Get with the program. Let the Narrow rain down. Waiting for that knockdown. The sound shakes the ground. The circle of debate keeps going around. He's spitting facts like they're the gospel. Lord, I think he's made me Pentecostal. Let's start the show. Give it up for Brother De Niro.
Welcome to the Wrestling Delorean Podcast, the show where we talk about the past, the present, and the future of professional wrestling. I'm your host, Mike De Niro, and today we have a super stacked show because we are joined here by the man who runs the COD channel himself. This is the boss. This is the El Jefe. This is mi hermano. This is El Patron. My man, OPC. What is up, homie?
What is up? It's been a while that I haven't been here for the Wrestling DeLorean. Oh my goodness. Am I happy? I love that thing.
Dog, I am so happy that you're here. We are back home with the COD channel, and it's all because of you. So thank you. Thank you very much for having us back.
It's all you guys. I mean, I can be your Phil Jackson. Y'all my Kobe's or Michael Jordans. That's what you guys are to me. Y'all my Tom Brady's. Yes, I can be Bill Belichick, but that's it. No.
Love it.
Here's what's going on.
We already got Alex in the chat. We got Justin in the chat. What is up, man? Definitely will probably be seeing you very soon once again here on the Wrestling DeLorean. Got Astronaut in here. We got Brian Cook in here. Dude, it's already a party. It's already a party.
Summertime.
Oh, it's summertime out, right? It's freaking 102 out here. I am melting. But like I said in the open, TNA Wrestling been around for 24 years, man. To think that it's been around for so long for most of my life, it's insane to think. A lot going on with TNA. First of all, this upcoming Tuesday, shout out to Dark Side of the Ring. There's going to be a 3-part Dark Side of the Ring episode on the history of TNA. There's a lot of shit that they could talk about because from what I remember, there's a lot of ups, but there's a whole lot of downs, right? Also, there's a lot going on with TNA currently. A lot of people leaving, the big mass exodus of the company. We have people who were in, spots to run creative, like Tommy Dreamer, who's gone. Someone who we thought was going to be next up for creative, like Sami Callihan, he's gone. Recently, we had the departures of Macklin. We had the departure of Tessa Blanchard. The most recent one is Eric Young, and that's a guy who bleeds TNA. So a lot going on with TNA right now. So I thought that we could talk about the positives here because there's been a lot of negative talk about TNA. We'll give our top 5 moments in TNA history, and then we're going to give 5 pieces of advice to help TNA moving forward so they could continue for the next 24 years. Because right now, there's a lot of people who don't even see it going past 24 more months, let alone 24 years. So with that being said, I think we should start out with the top 5 moments. First of all, before we even get into the moments, tell me about your relationship with TNA. When did you start watching TNA? When did you fall in love with the company? And I know you do the watch-alongs of TNA, right, with Steve-O and with Rusty. What does TNA mean to you?
Man, TNA to me was another alternative at the time when, of course, when McNugget, bought WCW, the wrestling, so that was gone. So now we had another alternative. And don't get me wrong, we did have other alternatives at the time. Of course, we did have, but the exposure they got. I found them on DirecTV. I'm like, oh, okay, what is this about? Okay, this $20 for the pay-per-view. Okay, let me order it. I need to check it out. Once I ordered it, when I saw it, I'm like, man, I fell in love. The X Division really intrigued me. Seeing Amazing Red, seeing Low Key, Jerry Lynn, AJ Styles, seeing, even seeing Ken Shamrock there. And I was surprised at that, and Jeff Jarrett, and Shark Boy, and then just from there, I just grew up. From there, I just got intrigued and just wanted to order their pay-per-views before they even got their first televised, weekly show, because they were on monthly. So that's why I was like, okay, I gotta order these pay-per-views, and that's how I became a TNA fan, because that X Division really took it to the moon, baby. Took it to that extreme. And
no, 100%.
Nugget, but this is where Nugget is like, the hell is the X Division? And this is where, all right, damn it, let's bring back the Cruiserweight. And that's when you saw SmackDown brought to the Cruiserweight because of the X Division.
100%, yeah. Nah, yeah, I remember they used to be on Wednesdays, right? It was Wednesday weekly pay-per-views. Mm-hmm. And I remember, I think my father, one of his friends from work was telling him about TNA and was telling him, oh yeah, this guy's there, that guy's there. So I remember him coming home and we ordered the TNA pay-per-view the next Wednesday. And first time I ever seen AJ Styles, first time I ever seen Low Key was on that show. Raven was on that show. I remember being a big fan of Raven in WWE and not knowing where he went after he left, right? Because like at the time, this was like 2003, I would say. So I didn't see right at the beginning, but I was probably like 7-8 years old when I started watching TNA, and instantly, same thing. X Division was something that I really fell in love with. Love to see Jerry Lynn, because I was watching ECW before then. Like I said, I would stay up and watch ECW with my family. Jerry Lynn was there. It was awesome to see, but seeing those new faces, and it was actually on one of those episodes that we first started watching that Sting made his first appearance in TNA. It was Sting versus Jeff Jarrett. No, Sting and Jeff Jarrett, I think, teaming up against AJ Styles and X-Pac for one of those early shows. And then I remember we would see it here and there. It was hard to watch it every single week because you had to pay. And then when they first came to their first 3-hour pay-per-view on Sunday, it was Victory Road 2004. And I remember seeing that show. That was the show where you had Macho Man made his debut. Scott Hall and Kevin Nash was there. Jeff Hardy was there in the ladder match. AJ Styles versus Petey Williams. It was just a great show. And then from there, you started seeing them on Fox Sports Net, Spike TV. I remember how excited I was for their Spike TV debut.
Me too.
Team 3D made their debut, and it was just awesome, man. And I just remember really falling out of love with WWE and just falling in love with TNA, where TNA I would watch religiously, buy the DVDs, go to the shows when they were touring, got the action figures because I was still a kid. It was just awesome, man. I honestly always loved the spirit of TNA. That's why a lot of these moments that I have go back all the way down to the very first start of TNA, those early years, because that's what made me fall in love with TNA. So already in the chat, we see Chef says AJ Styles, Raven, Low Key, Amazing Red. Dude, these were the names that really put TNA on the map.
Mm-hmm.
It was, excuse me, it was awesome to see when they finally got on TV and you got to see them more often and got to see Samoa Joe, Christopher Daniels, Elix Skipper. It was just awesome, man. I absolutely loved that early first 5 to 6, 7 years of TNA, because it was you can't go wrong. Everything they did was so amazing.
Yeah,
but
absolutely. 100%.
That being said, start us off, homie. What is your number 5 spot?
All right, let me get my list here, because man, even though we did this off air last night, decided, hey, let's just do it. I'm all right. And by the way,
some homework.
I know, and I gotta do my homework. But before I say this, congratulations to Amazing Red. He's gonna be inducted on the TNA Hall of Fame. 100%. Well deserved, man. Well,
that's my trainer.
Deserved. Oh man, I know. As a trainer.
Very happy for him.
Man, I'm so excited for him. All right, so of course, number 5 for me will be, man, the debut of this man, and made an incredible feud with this man even throughout, I would say, 2006 to 2008. Kurt Angle, Samoa Joe, their rivalry, their story was amazing. Even from lockdown 2006 to Genesis 2006 to lockdown of 2000. So that's like amazing stories between them. Like it really attracted me, like how that was a dream match. Who everybody wanted to see during that time.
Hell
because
yeah,
Jamal was up there, at his peak. And I'm like, besides being in an X division, in the X division, but he was already like pretty much a heavyweight to be in the main championship. And seeing the debut of Angle and seeing Joe and Angle eye to eye, face to face, I'm like, oh my God, this is the match that we want to see during that time, 2006. And it happened. It happened at Genesis, and it was just like, man, amazing. And then they took it to the point that where it was, I don't know if it was lockdown 2008. I don't know. I don't remember it, but maybe it was. For winner takes all. This was a time, if you remember, when they had all the belts.
That's right.
And that's
including IWGP champion.
Exactly, including the IWGP championship. And so this is where winner takes all, and that was an amazing feud. I loved it, and I think, for my opinion, it elevated Joe more than what he was at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And it wasn't, and that's why people don't give credit to Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle did a lot for that company, a lot for it. He had more matches there than I think than WWE.
He was there for a lot more years than he was in WWE. You figure he was there from he debuted in WWE in '99, left in 2006. So he was in TNA from 2006 to 2014.
Yep.
So yeah, like 12 years. Kurt Angle was amazing in TNA, 100%.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, my number 5, right? I mentioned him before. I remember it was the second 3-hour pay-per-view that they did. It was Turning Point 2004. Mm-hmm. Now, I ordered that show because growing up, I was a huge Macho Man fan, right? I ordered that show because Macho Man Randy Savage was having a matchup. It was Macho Man versus it was Macho Man Randy Savage, Jeff Hardy, and AJ Styles teaming up against Kevin Nash, Scott Hall, and Jeff Jarrett.
Yep.
And I ordered it for that matchup, thinking it was going to be the main event, not knowing, because it wasn't weekly television yet, not knowing that the main event was a 6 sides of steel matchup between America's Most Wanted and Triple X, Christopher Daniels, and Elix Skipper. And when I heard that was the main event, I was like, whoa, a cage match with 6 sides. This is going to be interesting. Dude, I never would have thought that match would have produced a moment that will still live to this day, with Elix Skipper walking the top of the cage. Still to this day, the most insane thing that I've ever seen in wrestling. I have no idea how anyone had the balance or the balls to even try that, because it's not like the WWE cages where they have like the catwalk. This was just a regular like fence. So they had like just the bar, and this man walked the top of the cage. And I remember just flipping out for that. Like, holy shit. But still to this day, even to the point that last Sunday on Slammiversary, when they had that video package showing the 24 years of TNA, they still show that moment to this day. Mm-hmm. It was just one of the craziest things I've ever seen, man. That was an awesome, awesome moment when Elix Skipper walked that cage at Turning Point. Love that moment. So that's my number 5.
Yeah, love it. I love it.
What's your number 4?
Number 4. All right. My number 4 will be, I forgot to write down the year, but the debut of the Ultimate X. I think that really
2003. Yep.
Oh my God. I don't care what match it was, but every Ultimate X for me was just like, oh, I'm excited to see how this turns. Every match was top notch. I was never disappointed in any Ultimate X match. All of them were great. All of them were great.
That first one just was mind blowing. I believe it was Kazarian.
Mm-hmm.
It was Frankie Kazarian, Chris Sabin, and Michael Shane, right?
Oh yeah, it was Michael Shane. I forgot about that,
dude.
Oh shit!
Before I don't know if I think he was still going by Michael Shane. I don't know if because I know he changed his name later on in TNA to Matt Bentley.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, I think he was still going by Michael Shane at the time. But yeah, that first one was really like, it's basically a ladder match without the ladder. You find your way up there, and it blew my mind, man. Amazing. I like that you put that on yours, because that was probably like an honorable mention for me. But even to this day, with Sunday being, Slammiversary, they had an Ultimate X match. To this day, Ultimate X is still one of those things where if it's on, even if I haven't watched TNA in years, I got to watch that Ultimate X match because it's still one of my favorite matches of all time.
Mm-hmm.
They should bring that shit to NXT. With the partnership, they should have had an NXT Ultimate X match. Bring more shine to that match. That would have been awesome.
Oh, man. Could we say basically that is something? Well, you know what? I'm going to save it when we get to the to-do list, because
cool.
an idea there. But All right, I'll bring it up, but when we touch that, I'm gonna save myself.
Awesome. My number 4. This was probably the moment where I went from I'm a TNA fan to like I'm a TNA diehard, and this is all I want to watch. And that was TNA Bound for Glory 2006 in Detroit. It was the very first pay-per-view that TNA took on the road, because before this, all the other pay-per-views were in the Impact Zone.
Yes.
This was the show where just 3 days before Kurt Angle made his debut, and Kurt Angle was announced to be the special enforcer for the main event. It was Sting versus Jeff Jarrett in the main event. Sting looked like he was back in the 90s. He looked like he was in great shape. He finally beat Jeff Jarrett for the world title, which was awesome. This is also where Jeff Jarrett like stepped away for a little bit. But on this show, overall, this show was phenomenal. You had an 8-mile street fight between Christian Cage and Rhino. You had a 6 sides of steel match between AJ Styles and Christopher Daniels versus LAX. There was a Monsters Ball with Spike Dudley, Samoa Joe, Abyss, and Raven. There was, this top to bottom, this was just a hell of a card. But for TNA to finally take that next step and go on tour, get out of the Impact Zone, and get in front of a new crowd, and that crowd to accept that show as much as they did in Detroit, it was just an awesome show top to bottom. One of my favorite moments was, if you remember, Kurt Angle debuted a few days before that. Right? Yes. Kurt Angle got into the brawl with Samoa Joe. He headbutts Samoa Joe, which I'll talk about because that's definitely on my moments. He headbutts Samoa Joe. They get into the brawl. And then on this pay-per-view, which was only a few days after that, they get into the brawl again. They have a much bigger brawl. And you had because they didn't want Samoa Joe ruining the main event. So Samoa Joe was getting kicked out of the venue. Kurt Angle was in the ring to cut a promo, and then they just go at it. Jim Cornette is going crazy, get him out of here! Get him out of here! Amazing moment, man. It was a really, really good show. Also, on that show was a matchup between Eric Young and Larry Zbyszko. To think of
that's right. I forgot about that show.
To think about Larry Zbyszko fighting in 2006, having a match against Eric Young, just amazing. That's what you brought to TNA. TNA had legends, they had new faces, and they had the perfect mix of having those legends go against the new talent and bringing them up and making them stars. This is during the Don't Fire Eric thing. So it was cool to see Eric Young mix it up with a legend like Larry Zbyszko, but really, really good show. So as an overall show, that's going to be my number 3 moment. So what is your number 3?
Okay. Number 3, of course, is the debut, which that's going to be on another list, but for sure. The 2022, the debut of the Queen of the Mountain. That's when you had Chelsea Green, Deonna Purrazzo, Tasha Steelz, Mia Yim, and Jordan Grace. And man, this is where that's vintage Mia Yim right there, and seeing that. And I actually went back and rewatched it. It was amazing. And that was the highlight spot too and I forgot about the highlight spot where Mia Yim threw Chelsea and Deonna through the table when they were on top of the ladder.
That was scary.
That was scary. That was a horrible bump. But I know, Mickie James was there like a special enforcer in case, if anything goes wrong with the ref. But then, of course, Jordan Grace won the first ever Queen of the Mountain. But that, honestly, for me, I feel that when they brought that for the women for the first time, those 5 women in that solidified their career, in my opinion. It really helped all of them, especially knowing that, Mia Yim as well. I'm happy for that one, especially where she's currently. Same goes for Chelsea. Same for all of them. All of them. And believe I wish, Tasha resigned. It's understanding. If she would get a moment in another platform, the E or the A, man, she could take it to another level. And I can see that from her, because she has that potential, that charisma.
Tasha is so fucking good, man. And I wish that we saw more of her in the ring. But absolutely. I agree with you. That, think about that. After that matchup, Mia Yim goes to WWE. Chelsea Green, not too long after, goes to WWE, becomes much bigger stars. But I like how you have something on your list that was more recent, because I'm talking about 20 years ago, 15 years ago. So it's good that you brought up something more recent for sure.
All right.
My number 3, I actually said my number 3 before, but my number 3, that was my number 4. My number 3 is the Unbreakable 3-Way. Still to this day, one of my favorite matches in TNA history. Astronaut says here, Samoa Joe's undefeated streak was litty. And dude, exactly, man. That was such an amazing match. First of all, it's a huge moment because it was the very first time in the history of TNA that the X Division was the main event of a pay-per-view. So before this, you never had that X Division title defended in the main event. You had the undefeated Samoa Joe, you had Christopher Daniels, and you had AJ Styles. Christopher Daniels was, at the time, he had a 6-month title reign. It was going on to break the record as the longest reigning X Division champion of all time, which now I know has been passed by a lot, by like Moose and then Javon Evans and not Javon Evans, Leon Slater, I should say. So there's been a lot of people that passed it, but at the time it was a really long reign for the X Division title. And words cannot describe these three forces coming together and creating magic. I think up until 2024, because I know that Dave Meltzer, I know we don't love Dave Meltzer here, but I know Dave Meltzer crowned the matchup between Josh Alexander and Will Ospreay, a 5-star match. Before that, you have to go all the way back to 2005. It was this matchup was the only 5-star match in TNA history, and rightfully so. This matchup was absolutely phenomenal, man. Like AJ Styles getting the victory at the end. There was so many different sequences in this matchup that just like inspired the next generation. It was a interview with Will Ospreay, I believe, on Chris Van Vliet. Will Ospreay said that it was this matchup that he watched with his family where he said, hey, I want to do this. This matchup inspired Will Ospreay to become a wrestler.
And it's funny that you mentioned his name. He came to Impact a couple years later.
Exactly. And then he was able to have a 5-star matchup there too. It was awesome.
Yep.
So I got to say, like, when I think of TNA and I think of the early days and I think of the glory years, I always go back to this matchup. This matchup was one of the greatest matches of all time. And still to this day, this is my favorite matchup of all time. Absolutely loved it. So I had to put it on the list. Do you think that matchup was still to this day could hold up as one of the greatest in TNA history?
I think if we were able to introduce a person what's professional wrestling, I'll put one of those on my list to be one of the first matches. Because the way how they did it that night got the crowd so much hype, and it's like if you feel like you're there, but it just the crowd's reaction gets you so anticipated.
Yeah,
and I feel that could be like one of the matches you could show to an audience, to a person who's never seen pro wrestling, and give them one of those on the list. That's one of them I put on my list. And I don't remember if that was match of the year that 2005. I hope it was, because that should have been the match of the year.
I mean, I'm thinking like 2005, you had a lot. 2005 was a great year for wrestling. WWE was pretty good. You had the ECW One Night Stand, the first one that was amazing. TNA was on fire. Ring of Honor was on fire in 2005. That's when they still had CM Punk. And I got to say, I still think that matchup is better than anything that happened in 2005. But it was a crazy year for sure.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah, man. I just fucking love that matchup. Love it. All right. Hit me with your number. You said number 3. Hit me with your number 2.
Before I do, shout out to Daniel Musa. We appreciate you.
Yeah, we appreciate it, man. Thank you for being here.
And he's saying TNA versus the Aces and Eights, Bound for Glory, pay-per-view 2013. That was actually a great pay-per-view. That was great pay-per-view too.
Yeah.
I like that. Good stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Number 2, of course, because this man was the heart and soul of TNA before he left, and then he decided to go to AEW and then call his retirement. Of course, Sting. The Joker Sting. That's like the number, like, favorite gimmick of all time. I love how he took it to another level and really upset everybody backstage, and really how you have the promos. And then I like how it started, him being in Hogan's office.
Reinvented himself.
Yeah, he definitely reinvented himself. And man, that was amazing. Amazing gimmick. I love that. Like, it just, everything Sting has done in TNA has been amazing. That's why I could just say Joker Sting is one of my top favorites. And especially him doing that, what he did, it's like it's amazing. He pulled it off, man. He literally pulled it off. I don't think anybody could do that.
100%, man. I loved that he was able to reinvent himself, and that's why my number 2 actually is the TNA debut of Sting, because Sting was a guy who was the heart and soul of WCW. He was the franchise player in WCW. never went to WWE at this time. He was the biggest star to never go to WWE. And when he joined TNA full time, because I know he had some stints there in 2003, he had like a couple matches in 2004. But when he joined full time in 2006, it was such a big deal. They already had Christian Cage, right? Christian Cage just debuted, which was another big signing for them. But to get an icon, a legend like Sting, I feel like really took him to the next level. He was a guy who had, you know, that brand awareness and was able to know his spot, was to not only, you know, help others, but to use his star power to take them to the next level as well. It was right around the time that TNA just got on Spike TV. So when they got Sting, I feel like TNA really just started to step it up, because then you saw bigger stars start to come in. But when they got Sting, I feel like he was the catalyst to really create the revolution of TNA being a place where people want to be. It wasn't just a place where you had a bunch of up and comers. Like if you were a legend, you looked at TNA as a viable option. Because if I say I was in WWE for a couple years and then I get released, I look at TNA as like, oh, well, look what they're doing with Christian. They made him a star. They made him a champion. He wasn't a champion in WWE. Look what they're doing for Sting. They're giving Sting a whole second, you know, coming on his career. So I definitely think that Sting joining was the start of the rocket ship starting to go up for TNA. So I had to put that as my number 2.
100%, because you know, and you nailed the coffin to what you're saying too. Yeah, because it's like Sting took it. He led the way, and that's one thing. Even though TNA had a veteran of Jeff Jarrett, right? However, he was more involved, more with his dad and behind the scenes. And yeah, he put himself up there. We know that, but he still did a great job. I'm not disregarding Jarrett, but Sting was the catalyst and led the inspired people that didn't feel uninspired and really pushed, like AJ, especially AJ, one of them to, you know, be right behind him. Yeah. And Kazarian and Joe and, you know, just all the OGs that stuck around for so long before they went their own paths with different roads. But he led that. And then the new upcomings that were coming there that they really brought in, like, man, it took it to the whole nother level. And if I were them, and I hope they did, pick his brain, because that man knows how to put people over. And that's why I love Sting for that. And Sting is a guy, you know, he did it like he said, you know, did it for WCW too, you know, and he was very loyal. That, you want to talk about like hustle, loyalty, respect, that man has that.
100%. Yeah, dude, he went down with the ship in WCW, and to be honest, he was with TNA for a lot of the bad years too. When things started to get a little rough, he stayed. He would sign on another year, and he would sign another year after that. So for Sting to be as loyal to TNA, like I was upset that he finally went to WWE and got started to get like jobbed out by Triple H and shit. That was horrible, because you got a legend like Sting. I feel like that's when you take this man and you treat him like the legend. That's why I was so glad that he was able to end his career in AEW, where they actually treated him like a legend. Shout out to Bagel with the super chat. We appreciate you, man. It says, do you think that if TNA handled Okada better, the TNA New Japan relationship would have lasted longer? 100%. Because in the early days, if you remember, I believe it was like 2005, they were sending over Tanahashi. They were sending over Jushin Liger. You had the World X Cup, where you had a bunch of New Japan guys. You had Black Tiger when it was Rocky Romero. You had Minoru, what's his name? Sho Minoru. No, not Minoru Suzuki. The other Minoru. Sho Minoru, I think his name was. The junior heavyweight.
Oh, yeah. Shit, I forgot his name. I know he's not.
Yeah, you had Milano Collection AT. You remember Milano Collection AT? New Japan definitely sent over a lot of people. They also sent over No Limit, Naito, and
Okada.
Yeah,
he had blonde hair.
Yeah, man, they sent over a lot of talent, and I feel like when TNA started to take those talents and were, I don't want to say disrespected them, but started treating them like they were just jobbers, that's when New Japan was like, all right, no, we're going to start using other companies. That's why you started seeing more people get sent to CMLL and other companies that they worked with, because TNA was treating them like jokes. Yeah,
Ring of Honor, and I think that's honestly the best relationship they ever had is with, you know, New Japan.
ROH brought them to the States.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they had a great relationship with them, and I you know, that's one thing that Ring of Honor doesn't get credit. If it wasn't for Ring of Honor, we wouldn't have these type of Forbidden Door. You know, they push it to that level, and their pay-per-views that they were doing, you know, Worlds Collide. What's it called? I don't know what's called. World Collide. I don't remember.
Oh, it was War of the Worlds.
War of the Worlds. Yeah,
War of the Worlds and Global Wars and
Global Wars. That was amazing what they did with, you know, with CML and New Japan, and that was when New Japan was really getting at its peak to get exposure here in North America, because they were already mainly known, obviously, in international, but not in North America. So they kind of helped elevate it. I mean, you could say TNA kind of started that, but like how you mentioned it, the relationship down the line later kind of like went sour, and that's where Ring of Honor kind of picked it up and took it to another level for them.
Yeah, 100%, because like I said, I really did like the early days of having the World X Cup and having people from AAA and people from New Japan, but then when you start to like make Okada like the fucking Green Hornet, it's like, what are we doing here, man? Because before that, like there used to be, I remember on Explosion. Remember TNA had the Explosion show. There was a couple of IWGP title matches that were really, really good, especially when they had the IWGP Championship there. Because I remember when Kurt Angle held that title, they brought in Shinsuke Nakamura for a match against Elix Skipper, which was awesome to see Nakamura during the early days. Tanahashi versus AJ Styles was on, I think, Genesis 05. So it's like there was a couple people there that they would bring over, even when they started already like elevating their star power. And then TNA was constantly showing the IWGP champion. Team 3D was the IWGP tag team champions. Motor City Machine Guns were the junior tag team champions. It was cool. And then like after like 2010, then you started seeing like the relationship sour because TNA was kind of disrespecting the talent. Like what they did with Okada was absolutely insane. I remember when the Pope, D'Angelo De Niro put like a knife to Okada's neck and he was like fearing for his life. And it's like, that's not what they're sending these talent there for. They're sending them on excursions so they could get better and learn, not to come up with a stupid ass character that's going to be just laughed upon, So yeah, I think that's for sure what, ended that relationship. And I'm glad that they got it back for a little bit before the WWE relationship. Cause then we got to see Okada back in TNA. I think he teamed up with like Speedball a couple years ago. Got to see Will Ospreay in there for a little bit.
Oh, that's right.
Jay White was in TNA for a little bit during the pandemic.
Hell yeah, that was great. And that's where he recruited Chris Bay and Ace Austin to be part of the Bullet Club. And and I don't know, I follow Chris Bay put it on social media like when he saw the return of Jay White. Man, my man is back, and he was so excited for him. Like I know Jay White did a lot of tribute, a lot of things for Chris Bay, for his injuries, and he's getting in best shape, by the way. And I'm praying for that man. Hopefully. Even if he's not in a ring, but him being part of creative or anything. But that Chris Bay is another person that people would sleep on. That man, if it wasn't for that man, for him, also running, in Nevada, FSW. And Zoe Starks was trained by him. He trained her. And that's another thing that people don't know that. Like, yeah, she learned not only from Simbodi, but she also learned from Chris Bay. That was her mentor right there. So
I got nothing but respect for Chris Bay, man. Like the guy was never even supposed to walk again. So to see him like walking around, like it's just beautiful to see, honestly.
Oh yeah. All
right, let's hit it. Number one. What is your number one moment in TNA history?
2009 No Surrender. AJ Styles winning the TNA World Championship.
Love it.
And this is the funny thing that a lot of people, we talk, it's crazy how we put Sting at 2, right? But this is the part that people forgot. This was a Fatal 4-way. This was, Matt Morgan, Kurt Angle, Sting, AJ Styles.
And Hernandez. It was actually a Fatal 5-way.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, 5-way. I forgot about Hernandez. This is where the moment where Kurt Angle was laying in the ring, and then Sting and AJ look at each other. Sting was, fuck it, I'm gonna go after Matt Morgan. He jumped off of the ring apron, but crossbody. AJ with the 450 over. The crowd went crazy. I was crazy for that too.
Hell yeah!
And man, that's how you can tell that Sting is a man who pays the dues. Like, here, man, it's your turn. Take it to another level. You run with the ship now. And that was amazing that he did that. I didn't expect that. Nobody expected it. We all, I think all of us kind of thought that it would be Sting. He's gonna win. But AJ winning, pinning Kurt Angle. Oh, that was amazing. Dude, great moment for him.
And then the crowd came into the ring. And beautiful moment, man. I love
Christopher Daniel there holding him on the side. Like, oh, I love that.
Beautiful moment. AJ Styles is my favorite wrestler of all time. Like, honestly, and that's why I wish I was able to put him on this list as, one of the top 5. I mean, I have the Unbreakable match up there. right? But I feel like the biggest moment in TNA history, my number one was actually your number 5. My number 1 was the debut of Kurt Angle. At the time of Kurt Angle leaving, there was no bigger star in the industry than Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was a wrestling machine. And I always say, like, it was really cool to have an icon like Sting in TNA because it showed that there is another place where people could go. But when they got Kurt Angle, now TNA became the threat, right? TNA was a threat because Kurt Angle was there. He was one of the greatest wrestlers of all time before he even stepped foot inside of TNA. And then when he went to TNA, they let him go loose, right? Amazing matches with Samoa Joe, amazing matches with AJ Styles, and the feud with Abyss. Like, even like,
oh my God, with Abyss.
And then the main event Mafia, and like, dude.
Oh, I like that.
If you just go down to history, the biggest moments in TNA had to do with Kurt Angle. And I gotta say, I remember that debut when he showed up and fucking, Don West and Mike Tenay are going crazy. Kurt Angle's in the impact zone. Like, it was, as a kid, dude, at the time, I was only 12 years old. As a kid, that shit was the most exciting thing ever because we knew he was signed. He was announced for Bound for Glory. We're thinking, all right, order Bound for Glory. You're going to see the debut of Kurt Angle. You did not know that 2 nights before on Spike TV, Kurt Angle was debuting. It was a shock. And then when he went face-to-face with Samoa Joe and headbutts Samoa Joe, dog, I got to say that has to be the greatest moment in TNA history. The fucking held up the titles. He was like, when he like was amped up and veins were popping all through his neck, he's like, yeah, like, dude, amazing moment. My favorite moment in TNA history has to be Kurt Angle debuting, hitting that headbutt on Samoa Joe, and then that's what really started making TNA go forward. I believe it was like maybe a month later after the Kurt Angle signing, they got an extra hour on the show because it used to be a 1 hour show. And then after that, like 3 months later, they got to the Thursday prime time spot, 2 hours on prime time on Thursdays. So I really think that Kurt Angle was that catalyst to take TNA to the next level. If you remember, Spike TV had him on at 11 o'clock Eastern on a Saturday. That is crazy. Like, to think that company went from 11 o'clock on a Saturday to 11 o'clock on a Thursday to 8 o'clock on a Thursday to 2 hours on the Thursday. And it all started when Kurt Angle debuted for TNA. So I feel like that was the biggest moment for the company.
Absolutely. 100%. What up, Steven?
What's up, Steve-O? We got Steve-O here. He says, what up, OPC and De Niro? One of the best moments in TNA was Elix Skipper walking. Dude, that was my number 5 moment. I had to bring that up for sure. Cook, you say in his prime, there was very few in any wrestler on the earth who could top Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle was the fucking man, especially if you remember right before he left, he was like the wrestling machine in ECW and was having some of the best matches. He had that matchup in 2006 against Undertaker. Like, to think about what Kurt Angle did, right? In 2006, he had a matchup against Undertaker at No Way Out that is considered one of the greatest matches in WWE history. And then a few months later, he's in TNA having one of the best matches in TNA history against Samoa Joe. He had one of the best Dude, if you look at I went back, I had this, was it PW Insider, right? The year-end awards for PW Insider magazine. The top 2 matches that were match of the year was Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle came in number 1 at Genesis. Not Samoa Joe. It was number 2 was Kurt Angle versus The Undertaker at No Way Out. And to think that in 1 year, the man had the best match in WWE and the best match in TNA. Kurt Angle's the fucking man, dog.
Oh, yeah.
He is the man.
Absolutely.
All right. So, like I said, we have a lot. First of all, shout out Emily. What up, Emily?
Emily. And then Vago is with the 199.
Oh, thank you so much for the super chat, man. Crazy that Joe only won it once. Yeah, man. I always had a gripe with that. I always felt like Samoa Joe could have been one of those guys to hold the TNA title a couple times. He won it from Kurt Angle in 2008, and then that was it, right? And then we got our favorite troll in the building, Rocco. He says biggest moment was the rise of the greatest wrestling invasion, GFW.
Global Force Wrestling, really?
Oh man,
really?
Rocco. We love you, Rocco. AJ Styles' first world title win is number 5 for Jeff Hardy and Abyss Monsters Ball. Dude, when Jeff Hardy did that Swanton, I think it was
scary.
Bound for Glory 2005 from the top of the entranceway. bro, I just remember Don West screaming, "That was freaking insane!" Like,
rest in peace, Don West, man. Greatest team right there was, of course, the Professor himself, and man, Mike Tenay and Don West was the greatest. Great. You know, I know
credit, man.
Hell yeah, and I know Taz. You know, he was there too as a commentator, but I'm sorry, nobody could top when it comes to Don West and Mike Tenay together.
That was just the best duo. Like, my favorite commentator of all time, right? I love JR. I love a lot of like the classic commentators as well. Like, I was a big fan of like Gordon Soley and stuff. Like, when I go back and watch stuff, but my favorite commentator of all time was, if it was just him by himself, was always Joey Styles, right? I always loved Joey Styles because he was able to make everything feel important, right? But then when you go to like my favorite duo, I think I would put JR and the King as number 2, because Tenay and Don West were so good at what they did. They were like the perfect team. You had Don West hyping everything up like it was the greatest thing he's ever seen. You had Mike Tenay, who was the professor. He had all the wrestling knowledge to really break down everything that we're seeing, all the history. And putting those two guys together was just a brilliant idea by TNA, man. When I think of TNA, I always got to go back and think of how great it was to have Don West and Mike Tenay as a commentary team.
Even you remember, even to the point that it looked legit, but it looked like it was off script, but I know it wasn't. When Don West went up on Mike Tenay on live fucking television,
you freaking prick,
you freaking prick, and I'm like, man, I was just like, Don West was amazing, man. Even like I like their moments towards the end of the show, they high five each other, like, yeah. I like Tenay's like so like his energy. And not only the knowledge that he has, that's why he's professor for a reason. That man knows 1,000 moves or anything. That man knows everything, the history. That man knows his knowledge.
He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. I know he's in the TNA Hall of Fame, but he deserves to be in the WWE Hall of Fame, because not only for his amazing commentary that he did in TNA, WCW, he was amazing in WCW. He worked a lot with Conan and AAA. That's why he always knew all the luchadors that was coming in. And now that they own AAA, put Mike Tenay in the goddamn Hall of Fame, because he deserves it. And Mike Tenay he never was offered, he said, for the WWE Hall of Fame, right?
Okay, so that's different. But I'm saying, like, offered. As an employee, he was offered. And he's
no, I know that. I know he doesn't want to come back to commentary. I think that would be awesome to see Mike Tenay on commentary.
Even AEW, when he started, they called him. He said no.
Imagine Mike Tenay and Tony Schiavone on commentary in AEW.
Oh my God! Yes, and then
would be awesome.
I'm sorry, Excalibur. You wouldn't be the lead commentator, man. I know he is, 100%. But sorry, Excalibur. Nobody could top Mike Tenay. Not with the knowledge that man knows, and the way how he really breaks down a match. You know, from the beginning to its end, it's so fucking amazing.
I love what Chef said here. Mike Tenay being in TNA was perfect, as opposed to being trapped on WCW Thunder. RIP Don West. That man was awesome. I agree, man, for sure. And actually, I'm not even going to read that comment. Because,
well, why you got JB, man? JB was he did a fantastic job as much as he could do, but he's a great producer. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
If then credits doesn't give credits due, Borash really was in charge of production for TNA, and if it wasn't for his production and his ideas of doing the segments of promos, they still couldn't keep it up to this day. I mean, they still keep it up. That's one thing about TNA right now, Kurt. Their promos, when it comes to their segments, like, love it. Like, especially with the one how Rosemary went back to the Undead to revive Ali to come back. That whole story was amazing how they did it. So amazing. It was even seeing Abyss, seeing him back.
I love that they brought Abyss back for that. Father James Mitchell, like,
and they brought back Abyss's brother. What's his name?
Chris Parks.
Chris Parks. He was there too. Like, I loved it, man. I know JB had something to do with it. I know he probably gave them ideas, and man, that was like still right now like top 5 right now currently for TNA that I like. But I like how they did it.
Yeah, I love what Justin said here. He said always preferred Tenay and Heenan on commentary over Tenay and Schiavone. And then Steve-O says, remember when Tony Schiavone going heel on Mike Tenay and TNA during the early days when he came in with like the Hawaiian shirt and shit?
Yep.
All right, so this is definitely a two-parter, right? We wanted to talk about the greatest moments, but since we do love TNA and we are kind of upset about what the current product is, not the product on air, because on air, those wrestlers are busting their ass. The talent that they have is busting their ass and is not any, like, it's not anything against them, because I never wanted to seem like I'm talking shit about the actual wrestlers or the wrestling. It's about what's going on backstage. It's about the bad business that they're doing right now. It's about the business just not doing good. And I feel like there's things that could definitely help TNA survive, because right now it looks a little scary. I know Len Asper was saying that it's being rumored that he put a price tag for TNA to be sold for $40 million, which I don't think it's worth that at this moment. But with that being said, we decided to come up with a list of 5 things that we would do to help TNA, right? And a lot of mine are more business way. So it's not like on air. Like, I'm not going to say like, oh, well, thing number 1, take Alicia Edwards off of TV like that. It's more of like the business side of it. So
something,
dude,
oh my God,
dude, even when I was watching Slammiversary, like when she was like screaming on the outside of the I Quit match or the No Surrender match, like Angela, who doesn't know much about TNA, she walked in, she was like, who is that? She's fucking annoying.
But I was happy at the end. She got speared to the table with her husband, Moose baby, right after the match. And I know that she sold the heck out of the slap that Moose's wife gave her. It did not look great. I'll tell you that slap, but she sold it still, though. I'll give her credit. I'm not gonna like disregard her credentials of Alicia Edwards, but man, yes. Who's more annoying, her or Vicky Guerrero? Who would you take?
Vicky would make my ears bleed, bro. Vicky would make my ears bleed, man. I like what Steve-O said also. He said, hands down, one of the best wrestlers in TNA that's not getting any recognition is Sonny Siaki. Sonny Siaki was awesome, dude. Like, he had so much charisma and so much potential. I think that the reason why he left was, I think his nephew or his niece needed a kidney, and he donated his kidney.
Really?
So, like, that's why he had to walk away from wrestling so early. But, like, I think if he would have kept going, he definitely would have been one of those legends that people talk about, like AJ Styles, like, Christopher Daniels, because Sonny Siaki in the early days was definitely getting a lot of shine. So, I definitely
he was like that version, like where Leon Slater is right now currently, you could say.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's
like the charisma of The Rock.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, charisma like The Rock, but he was moving like freaking Rey Mysterio. He was awesome.
Oh, fuck yeah. I would put that man in the Hall of Fame. He deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
Remember the Flying Elvises when he was in the
I remember those.
Him, Jimmy Yang, and what was his something Estrada, right? Johnny Estrada.
Yeah. And then, man, who doesn't remember SATs?
Bro.
Man.
SATs
they need
was
to be in the Hall of Fame.
100%. And they brought SATs back during the pandemic, if you remember.
Yeah, they did. I know. I was surprised.
Cool. SAT, awesome. They run a school, like I would say maybe 15 minutes away from here.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah. Oh. So it's called Warriors of Wrestling. I know a lot of people confuse it with Warrior Wrestling in Chicago. It's Warriors of Wrestling. They trained Sonny Kiss. They trained other people that came out of that school too. But it's in Staten Island. It's like really, really close from where I live now. And yeah, so I remember one time I saw Joel Maximo at the Stop and Shop. I was like, oh shit. But with that being said, all right, what is your number? Going down the list, number 5, what is the first thing you would do to help TNA?
In order for them to get more, they need to do more live shows instead of recording too much, too much pre-tapings, because it does affect them. The reason why I say that, because it affects them. The fact is, okay, you go for a weekend to a city, right? Or you do a 2-night event. And you record probably 4 to 5 TV recordings. You're keeping the audiences there for almost close to like 6 hours. And they already just tired. And when we're seeing the weekly shows, you could tell they're like, they're tired. I know they do it once in a while. They'll go live once a month, or not once a month. I'll say once every 2 months, like literally live at the attempt, where they at, wherever they at. I feel they need to get more. We got to see more of that. We got to see actual live shows, not just TV tapings. They need to minimize that. And that's where I feel if it's a budget, it's ridiculous in a way. But don't be wrong, they're playing it smart in a way of kind of getting the stadiums where they're at, like not too big but low enough. But they need to really push it to become more live events instead of TV taping, because it for me, in my opinion, it affects the audience, the TV audiences that's watching, because you're looking at the crowd's reaction and they're not into it. And when that happens, it's like, what's going on? Why is it, we're into it, but they're not. And sometimes people, TV audiences, if they don't feel the crowd, if they don't see the crowd, momentum, they won't feel it either. And that's what sucks. And I feel that's one thing they need to learn and understand, that their tapings is affecting, the audience that you keep there for so long, and they're already not giving two rats ass to like towards the final hours, and like, oh, okay, repeating this. They're tired. No, start doing more lives, less TV tapings.
They used to do they would try to run a city like 2 nights in a row, because I remember I used to go to TV tapings when they do the New York Grand Ballroom, the same building as the Hammerstein Ballroom but upstairs. And I remember they would shoot 2 TVs in one night and then 2 TVs the next night. So that crowd always stayed like lively, because you shot 4 weeks of TV within 2 days. With that second day, you allow that break in between so people could be refreshed, right? But now I hear that they're doing like 3 or 4 tapings and it's all in one night. And that's why you see like some of those episodes when you get to that third taping, like that crowd is absolutely dead. And like you said, if the energy is not there, then there's going to be no energy for the fans watching at home. And that could really affect your viewership. So I agree with that. My biggest fear is, because they're trying to cut money right now, that they will not go live more often, because going live costs a lot of money. It costs a lot of money to run those TV production trucks and go live with that. So that's why I feel like, as much as that would be a good answer to make the on-air product more exciting, I'm scared that they're not going to be able to do that. But shout out to my man Dylan, the silent assassin in the house from World Elite. What is up, man? Appreciate you being here. My number 5, right? And I think that this is a little like, people are gonna be like, yeah, shut the hell up. We all know, right? But my number 5 is cut ties with TKO. You could be 100%. They need to cut ties with TKO. Ever since they joined this partnership with WWE and TKO, they have became the little brother to NXT, and I think that it definitely changed the perception of TNA, where you used to look at TNA as the number 2 before AEW was across. Right now, you have AEW there. Obviously, AEW is number 2, but TNA was up there with the top promotions. And even before the partnership, TNA was still looked at as the number 3 promotion, and now it's looked at as the developmental for NXT. Dude, you can't tell me that a promotion that had your champion when you had Sting and Kurt Angle and Samoa Joe and all these guys as your champion is now the developmental for NXT. It makes no sense. And then it's one-sided. TNA sending over their world champions to be on NXT to get that show exciting, and NXT sending them people that are not, on TV as often or don't need that extra exposure. Like, for example, this week, right? Where TNA is sending them Mike Santana for shows and sent them Moose for shows. Who do TNA get in return? They got Thea Hale. And we know that NXT treats Thea Hale like she's still in trouble for that botch over Blake Monroe.
Which is not her fault.
It's not her fault, but the fact is that a fair trade? We'll let you have Moose. We'll let you have Mike Santana. We'll let you have all these people. We'll let you have Joe Hendry when he was on the roster, and Jordan Grace. We'll get Thea Hale. We'll get freaking Ariana Grace. We'll get Chase Stacks. We'll get, like, it's not a fair trade-off. And I think like that makes the perception of TNA feel like it's less than NXT. And they should not be less than NXT. At this point, in 24 years later, they should be compared to Raw and SmackDown as opposed to compared to the developmental of WWE. And also, behind the scenes, the business stuff, blocking TNA wrestlers from doing things, making Carlos Silva block wrestlers from doing matches against AEW wrestlers because WWE does not want that. WWE does not want this. WWE doesn't want that. It's like, that's bullshit, bro. If WWE does not own the company, they should not have overall say on where your wrestlers go or where your wrestlers work. So I feel like that relationship went from a partnership to I don't know. It just feels like, for a lack of a better term, TNA is WWE's bitch at this moment. And I remember a day where TNA was the alternative TNA was the alternative. If WWE had a 4-sided ring, TNA had 6 sides. If WWE had big bodybuilders, TNA had the fucking X division. Now TNA is trying to look and sound just like WWE. Even down to the end of Slammiversary, at the end of the shows. I know they do this on Impact also. They show like the producer credits on who produced the show, kind of like they do on Raw and SmackDown now. And it's like, bro, they're trying too hard to be TKO and WWE when TNA, the spirit of TNA was the alternative. The spirit of TNA was to be different. So I feel like they lost their identity the moment they joined this partnership with WWE. And for people who are all like, oh, they had, a one-sided partnership with AEW. I feel like at least with the AEW partnership, AEW was not sending their fucking leftovers or their like jobbers to TNA. They were sending Kenny Omega, Christian Cage, Matt Hardy. Those were AEW signed talent that were showing up on TNA television to help TNA. Where WWE, they're not sending Randy Orton. They're not sending, Cody Rhodes. They're sending Thea Hale. It's one-sided. Yeah. So with that being said, I feel like this partnership is hurting TNA. They need to cut ties.
Now that you're saying that you're top 5, I'm going to add this to my 4 just to, to add on top of it. Mm-hmm. And that is, before they do end the ties, if they can make it happen, bring it back for one last time. The TNA World Cup. But just make it with NXT, at least how you're saying, bring some Raw and SmackDown roster. Bring some Noah roster, since you have the relationship with Noah, since TKO has a relationship with them. Bring some from there, and not just only NXT. But hey, since they have a relationship with Brett Lauderdale, somewhat kind of they do, when they do like their Mania weekend was Bloodsport, and when they do any events, they allow the talent to go, like the main roster talent to go over there. So might as well get GCW involved in this World Cup. That's something that I would love for them to see, and I think that will kind of give them the momentum, and at least for something for us to see, and for them to be like, finally they're getting some kind of exposure. At least revive that. At least that, mainly that, revive that before they even cut ties with them. I would say take advantage of using that for bringing the World Cup, and then cut ties. You know what? All right, we're done. That's all I need to do.
I thought they would have done that already. This partnership is going on like 2 years now. I thought they would have done that already for sure.
I agree. I 100% agree with you. I was expecting them to do that, and they haven't done it at all. And that's a shame, because now you lost majority of your talents now, that it makes it difficult. However, then it could help at least certain athletes, upcoming rising stars, who's currently there in the roster, like Ricky Sosa. 100%. Ricky Sosa, BDE. You have Jason Hotch, from Order 4 from Mustafa, and there's talents there. There's definitely talent there that needs that exposure, and that's the one thing they need, is you got to find your future star, and that's where they need to. That would have been a great idea to do, to kind of put them together and understand, the chemistry, and get the audiences to be like, okay, I got to see more TNA. Mm-hmm. So that's the only thing, but I agree 100% what you're saying, though. That's why I added that as my 4, might as well, since all right, they move this up, because it makes absolute sense.
Brian Cook says the partnership is much more of WWE dictatorship. That company has lost the edge and essence of what they were 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. I totally agree, man. It definitely feels like it's not TNA anymore. So like, you might as well just change the name of the company, because you lost what made that company special. But I like how you brought up how there was a lot of rising talent, like Ricky Sosa, like the Good Hands, and I feel like they are always building new talent, but then those new talents leave. So my number 4 is to pay your wrestlers more and have them on longer term contracts, because the fact is, the reason why you have all these people join TNA and leave like 6 months later is because they hand out 6-month contracts, not even the year contracts. The 6-month contracts, they don't even pay the wrestlers as well as other companies while they're there. So I feel like if you want to be treated serious, you have to have your wrestlers there for longer terms, and you got to pay them, because this is a TV product. You are back on national broadcast television. You should be paying your wrestlers. It shouldn't be a case for wrestlers to look for, work elsewhere or have to work the indies because they are not getting paid. That's the difference between AEW and TNA, because AEW is allowing their wrestlers to do indies, but they're getting paid really well and they have it in their contracts. TNA wrestlers are looking to do indies because they're not getting paid enough from TNA to just live off of that. So that's a problem, especially when you're on TV. So I think that if they paid the wrestlers more and had them for longer term, you could build stars and not have to worry, hey, if we build this star up, if we build a star for a year, is he going to leave right when we're done? If we make Mike Santana the champion, is Mike Santana going to leave like right after he loses the champion and go to WWE? That wouldn't be an issue if you were able to lock them in for a lot longer terms and pay them better. So I think that that's another big thing.
100%. 100%. And that's the problem that big, how you're saying, the problem is too that TNA got you 6 months. However, they only pay you by your appearance for those 6 months. So you're not technically getting paid with the every month of that. You get paid when you're actually there on the TV tables. You don't get paid when you're not there.
That's how the indies do it, and TNA is not an indie, so that should not be a thing. To be honest,
exactly. So my number 3, for me, is exposure. Is really more exposure, especially for Explosion. They don't promote enough. And that's a major problem. And that's where they need to market. They need to really elevate their marketing. And then especially that they have Explosion, because that's another thing I forgot too. So that TV taping they do is also with Explosion included. So that's how you can tell people are tired. They're tired as heck, so they're really tired of it. And but I've seen a couple of Explosion episodes. Some of them are great because I'm seeing talents that are coming up. I know Harley Hudson, for me, she's still new, but I like her character. She's gonna get somewhere. Seeing her in Explosion, okay. Seeing certain women in the roster there that are not in an actual Impact, but seeing there, okay, and some of the men's as well. So, but the thing is that they need to have better exposure. They need better exposure, better promoting, and not just, hey, we're gonna be here in this town, guys. Like let's no. And start promoting your matches early. Don't wait like Tony Khan does in the last minute, but do it like, what's the plan for that week? You already have it set up. Do it, So I feel like they just need to work on their marketing, more exposure.
I agree. Send your wrestlers to do radio stations, interviews. Yeah.
Now it's I don't know. It's another rebrand, right?
They say, I hope it's a rebrand to take them to the next level.
Agreed.
My next one, I'm not going to go too far into it because I talked about it with the WWE thing, but my next one, my number 3, is to focus on being the alternative, because that's what made TNA special. TNA was special because it was the alternative. It was, everything was different about it. You were doing things in TNA that you would not see in WWE.
We're losing signal, pal. I don't know if it's you or me.
Let me see. My Wi-Fi is good. Let me see. I know your mic was cutting out a little bit right now. Can you hear me? Uh-oh. Can you hear me? We're good? All right. That's not good.
Let's see. You're back?
Yeah, can you hear me? Or
let's see. You're.
Let me refresh this.
Is it me or is it you? I gotta make sure.
I don't know. It shows my Wi-Fi is good.
Let us know in the chat, folks. Who we're losing? Is it me or is it zero? Okay. Well, maybe it could be me.
All right, I'm going to refresh it anyway just to see, and then I'll join right back in. Chat, let me know. Can you guys hear me, or is it?
It's me, but go ahead and continue. I'll switch.
No, all right, my bad, yeah. So just focus on being the alternative. I feel like if TNA was more focused on doing things differently than WWE, doing things differently than AEW, then that would make them what they should be. They were special for being. Yeah, I see you, but you're a little blurry, right? And it's like cutting up a little bit.
Okay. It is you.
It's me? I'm going to sign out and try back. Come right back. Let's see. All right, so I'm gonna ride solo here until OPC comes back. So yeah, basically the focus on being the alternative. I feel like that's the main key. You hear me good?
Yeah, I hear you good now.
All right, cool.
Yeah, it was my internet.
Yeah, I was confused if it was mine or yours. I don't know.
I refreshed mine, so I knew it was me. So okay, I figured.
Nah,
my apologies. My bad.
All good. So yeah, basically, I was just saying that my number 3 is just be the alternative. That's what made TNA being the alternative, not trying to be like AEW, WWE, or anybody else out there. Be different. Find ways to be different as opposed to being same as everyone else. And I feel like right now they're trying to be WWE light, and that's not what TNA's spirit was. TNA's spirit was the alternative. So be that alternative. That being said, what is your number 2?
Let's see. Let me put my list up. Right. Honestly, I'm going to combine this because it's basically what it is. I mean, it's 2 and 1. Improve the roster, both men and women. So basically, it's combined to 2 and 1. And you lost a lot, and how you said earlier, like start using your money, which technically they're not because they're going broke. So it just don't know why, that's why Anthem is doing the sale of $40 million. That's including with the library, including with the AMC TV deal. They're asking for so much money. It's for that reason. And however, the problem is that AMC, once the contract's up, they're gonna just walk out. They don't have obligation to resign.
Yeah.
To TNA, and that's where to Anthem. So that's what's going to affect them. But they need to really start improving their roster, give more exposure to the upcoming rising stars, like how we're seeing Ricky Sosa. He's getting that now. Great for him.
He's awesome.
He is. The only thing I said about him is he needs a better finishing. That Blue Thunder Bomb, I'm sorry. Hey, this is not as great. But the kid's great in the ring. I'm not hating on him. BDE, another kid that I would like to see him more often, and he has taken a lot of losses because he's paying his dues, so that's understandable, But at least from a content creator that he was, and coming into the sport of professional wrestling, he's taking it serious, and I like how he's doing it. I love his matches that he had, like we nicked them as, with Eric Young. So I like what he's been doing. So like I was mentioning, right now, I like the fact that they're doing It's hard to say yay when you're bringing a mid-card title for the women, but for what course? If you're not really, are you going to give them that time?
Yeah.
And the 2 hours? That's the problem. That's the biggest question there. It's how are you going to make that title to be relevant, to be exposed, if you've got 2 hour time frame to able to expose that. Right now, you're trying to get that hype anticipation by starting the tournament. That's great and dandy. However, the fallout after that, that's the biggest question.
Yeah.
Is there? It goes likewise for the Knockouts tag team titles. Are we going to see more often of them defending them? Question is to who though? So that's the problem. They need to start. If they're going to rebrand, they need to definitely seek out, and have something that, hey, let's get this person. But how you were mentioning earlier, screw that, pay them more, and screw that contract. And allow them to go. If you're not gonna pay them how you're supposed to be paying them, they have the rights to go ahead and go to the independent, promotions and go wrestle their. How you want them to survive? How do to pay their bills, their rent, their necessities? They're traveling, hotels. They're not paying it, so that's why I'll combine them. I'll combine them both. Is my number 2 and 1 is really improve that roster.
Nah, 100%, man. I can't fault you for that one. I agree with that. The roster needs improvements also. Same thing like what Barry Monkey saying here. He said that the X Division needs to be revamped pretty much. He said TNA needs to rebuild the X Division that has something that made TNA different and do it without Mr. Bloody Elegance.
Oh my God, Barry Monkey! I know and I love you, Barry, because you always been with us every Thursday too.
Yep.
For the TNA, watch along. Even like, man, we don't even like that guy, but I seen his wrestling outside. Before he became that. The kid's good. The ring. He's talented.
It's a bad gimmick.
Just a bad gimmick. That's all I got. This ain't Ravishing Rick Through 2.0. I'll tell you that. No, not even close. Not even close. Never.
They tried, but it's not.
No, I don't think anybody could. They tried him about Venus. That didn't work out. I'm sorry. You can't be Ravishing. Nobody could top that man did. So that character.
Legend.
Legend. Absolutely.
So my number 2, I'm gonna do, since you did your last 2, I'm gonna do my number 2 real quick. I think that they need a clear direction. I feel like they work too much with a booking committee, and I feel like they need to go back to having one clear direction and go forth in that direction. I know when Tommy Dreamer was there, he was taking insight from Hunter Johnston and with Sami Callihan, and now it should just be one clear direction. Because I always feel like wrestling with booking committees, like you have so many different ideas in the room, and that's when things don't happen properly. That's why I feel like, if you have one person where the buck stops with them and that's the direction we're going, that's when you start seeing more direction for the show. And my number 1, I got to give a shout out to Ashton out here, man. My number 1 was exactly this. If you are going to sell the company to Scott D'Amore, because I feel like they're setting this company up for sale for WWE. And WWE is going to close the doors. They're going to take the video library. They'll make a little YouTube for them. They'll TNA Vault on YouTube. You'll not see TNA ever again if WWE buys TNA. Sell the company to somebody, if you're going to sell the company, who's going to not only respect the history of the company, the lineage of the company, but who's going to keep the company running, and someone who could take the company to the next level. I feel like that man is Scott D'Amore, because when Scott D'Amore was there, TNA was fucking awesome. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, TNA was awesome. There's no complaints about Scott D'Amore when he was running TNA. I love what he's doing with MLP, but I feel like right now, if the company is up for sale, there's one man who I could see taking that company to the next level, and that's giving it back to Scott D'Amore. I mean, if not, give it back to Jeff Jarrett, right? I would love to see Jeff Jarrett.
I don't think Jarrett will pay that much money. If I were to see, remember, Scott D'Amore offered them $10 million when he had investors with him.
Yeah.
And they said no. And I'll guarantee that Scott will tell them, okay, that's the case. Then give me $9 million for it. And I'm not going to give you no more than that. Because they dropped the ball on themselves. Asper, who owns Anthem, they dropped the ball 100%. They don't know what to do when it comes to this sport professional wrestling. They dropped the ball when Dixie Carter sold the company to them. Yeah. And it just, if Jarrett had the right investors, maybe he could have done it. Even the same Scott D'Amore, he had the right investors, but no.
Jarrett almost bought it from Dixie. He was close to buying it from Dixie with Toby Keith, and it would have been cool to see, because look, whether you like Jarrett or not, I got to say, when I think of the best years of TNA, it was when Jarrett was in charge. When Jeff Jarrett was in charge, that was the glory days of TNA. And I would love to see him, because that was his baby. That was his creation. It was his brainchild. And the closest we ever got to Jeff Jarrett was Scott D'Amore. Someone who loved that company from the moment he stepped foot in that company, and was someone who bled TNA. It's so weird to think that he is no longer with the company, probably in my opinion, because he knew that the partnership with WWE was setting TNA up to sell to WWE, and he was for TNA doing their own thing and continuing to build TNA, as opposed to continuing to make TNA look pretty for a sale to WWE. WWE is not going to do shit with TNA. They will close the doors. They already run AAA, NXT, WWE, Raw, SmackDown. They're not going to run TNA if they buy TNA. It will be for the video library, and they're going to put that shit on YouTube, because they don't have a network anymore. They're not on Peacock. The fucking TNA Vault. That's all TNA would be for $40 million. TNA Vault on YouTube. Yeah. So I think that if they're going to sell it to somebody, sell that shit to Scott D'Amore, because that man loves TNA.
But not $40 million.
Not $40 million. Fuck
no. They're gonna be super less.
Yeah.
If Asper is really desperate to get rid of it, she better sell it for like at least 5 or 9. Someone will buy it. I'll tell you that. Tony Khan's not interested. He already said it. He's not interested.
Well, Tony Khan's interested. He's not interested for $40 million. He said, I wouldn't buy it for 40. But I mean, who would? WCW was a lot more profitable than TNA ever was, and that shit sold for $2 million. So, like, let's not act like TNA's worth $40 million.
Which is not. It's not worth $40 million.
That video library is legendary, but that video library is not worth $40 million either. Like, I'm sorry, it's a legendary promotion with a lot of history, but for $40 million, that is insane.
Exactly what Bear Minkus just said. That's why. That's another thing why I added Explosion and need exposure. I agree 100%.
Yeah,
I like what he said. I agree 100% because that makes sense because it builds. Then it's like how AEW does their Collision. When they do Collision, they're telling the stories already heading into Dynamite, so they can use Explosion to do the same for heading for the following Impact, and it gives. And it will work both ways because it gives a beneficial for Explosion to get more exposure and get obviously viewers, and then also anticipate the audiences to get ready for the following week of Impact. I 100% agree with Barry Minkus.
I agree with that 100%. I mean, shit, even if you don't get that on AMC because right now the ratings are not too good, AMC's probably not going to give them a second show. Fucking do Explosion on YouTube.
Which I think they are on YouTube. I believe so. I
may be wrong. It's on a TNA Plus, right?
Oh, it is? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
I didn't know Explosion. But the thing is, put it on YouTube. If anything, what AAA is showing is that you could build an audience on YouTube. With AAA, MLW, all these shows, I mean, shit, even JCW, these shows on YouTube are getting a lot of traction. That is the future. They should be on YouTube for the Explosion every single week. And that 2-hour show of Explosion every single week on YouTube should be building up to your TNA Impact every Thursday. I think that would
100%.
be make the most sense, 100%. But that being said, I know we got the SmackDown watch along in 20 minutes, so make sure you keep it locked and loaded here on the Circle Debate. Shout out to everybody that was in the chat. It was awesome to see everyone put in their top TNA moments and suggestions and all that. I love you guys. Thank you so much for always riding with the Wrestling Delorean. Make sure you hit that like button right here on the Circle of Debate. Hit that subscribe button. If you are watching on Twitter, X. If you're watching on Twitch, if you're watching anywhere else, make sure you head on over to the YouTube. This is where the party is. The party's not stopping anytime soon. They're about to go on for like another 5 hours. But make sure you come on over here and hit that subscribe button. Big shout out to my guest today, the Don El Jefe OPC. Thank you so much for joining us today, man.
I appreciate you.
I appreciate you
for having me. I appreciate you, man. Can't wait to be back again here. Cannot wait.
Whenever you like, bro. You know,
whatever be together.
Exactly, Shakira. Let
Blame Justin for that. He got me going with that shit.
Let the people know where they can find you on social media.
Folks, you already know where to find me. It's just right here.
Right here.
At Circle Debate. At Circle Debate, either at X, either on Kick, because we're on Kick, but also we're live on Kick as well. Twitch, YouTube, Facebook, IG, right there. You can find us there. Even on a TikTok, I believe it is. So, but you can find us there at Circle Debate. Everything there, folks. You know we're here 6 to 7 days a week. We do it for y'all. We don't do it for us. We do it for y'all. That's what we do. That's what we love. All of y'all and everybody in the chat, everybody listening around the worldwide. Craig, we appreciate you. That's where you can find us.
Hell yeah, man. I love it. I love it. Yeah, make sure you follow on Instagram and on TikTok at Wrestling Delorean Pod. We'll be back on Monday with a new episode of the Wrestling Delorean Podcast. Audio only. Wednesday, we have new episode of the All Elite Dirt Sheet. Talk about everything that's going down on AEW Dynamite. And next Friday, we'll be back here live on the Circle of Debate with Wrestling Delorean Live. So with that being said, I hope everyone enjoys their 4th of July weekend. Stay safe. Make smart decisions. Don't fucking blow your hands up with fucking fireworks, all right? Just make smart decisions. And since we're on COD, tell them the three. Well, first. I like hitting this because, I know this is COD, so I like hitting this. It's about that time.
Autobots, transform and roll out.
Roll out.
Roll out.
Roll out. Time.
And with that being said, on the COD channel, whether it's Wrestling Delorean, whether it's the flagship show, whether it's Chaotic Chaos, or the watch-alongs for Raw, SmackDown, NXT, TNA, AEW, there is one thing that we do better than everybody else, and that is one thing, 3 words. Say it with us if you know how it goes. We make History.
And together, we remake history.
Like a